With this, I would like to pass over the floor to the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of EIT Urban Mobility, Maria Tsavachidis. And Maria is online from Germany. Are you there, Maria? Welcome, Maria.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to all of the change makers there in Copenhagen and out there online, of course, for coming to celebrate the opening of our Nordic Hub. And thanks to Henrik, Ellen, and all the fantastic people at DTU who organized this event. So EIT Urban Mobility is about accelerating change, and change has never been so imminent. The question is not anymore if, but rather how fast we will transform to sustainable mobility. In the past months, contrary to pre-COVID time, I've done very limited traveling, no conferences or other events, probably like most of you. Overall, a pretty stationary lifestyle. Nevertheless, I have to say that it has been one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting period for me professionally and as a citizen. Why? Because amidst this tragedy we have seen with COVID-19, it has triggered and accelerated positive changes in urban mobility that might otherwise have taken years to happen. So COVID-19 has made it imperative to rethink mobility and the use of public space. More space is needed, of course, for cyclists and pedestrians to ensure the safe movement and to respect the physical distancing requirements. While we knew about the inequality of public space distribution, it never became so evident as during this corona crisis. Many cities responded, and very fast. Paris planning to create 650 kilometers of cycleways, creating 50 kilometers of pop-up lanes, Brussels announcing new 30 kilometers per hour default speed limits, in the city center even 20 kilometers per hour limits, and expanding bike networks to give more priority and ensure safety for cyclists and pedestrians. And this has happened in cities all around the world. Now, I'm aware that right now I'm talking to you, a crowd where cycling is part of the shared identity, but in many other countries, everyone cycling across all social groups, that is a cultural revolution. And there's another revolution happening, the space revolution that we have been talking about in the EIT Urban Mobility mission, which is also about creating livable urban spaces. Now, this is happening now, not only with more space for bikes, but space for people. In my neighborhood in Munich, which is what you see here in this picture, almost all restaurants were given parking spaces to use as temporary terraces to increase their outdoor capacity and enable the physical distancing while dining. These terraces are really transforming the neighborhood. It's become more enjoyable, more beautiful. And another effect has happened. People are reclaiming the road. They are walking on the street, reclaiming their public space. Now, these changes were done fast and with an experimental mindset. And cities have not waited to have the perfect concept, but they've put something out there that's good enough to respond to urgent needs and that can be improved with experience going forward. This is modern innovation at its best, and it's done by cities. This is heartening. We do have the capacity for rapid change. Now, the biggest challenge is to make positive changes permanent. We have to counteract bounce back to pre-COVID behaviors, above all the use of private cars. And we have seen bounce back already in car usage, which is back to pre-COVID levels, big time, even higher. And nevertheless, I'm quite optimistic that this is only a temporary bounce back. Why? I believe that besides the change of facts and the circumstances, the pandemic is also creating a change in our mindsets. So we've calibrated our values, the importance of family, neighborhood, community, and health. And this is what will accelerate change. And not a minor detail, there is political will. Already before the pandemic, there has been a clear political will in the European Union towards a climate neutral, digital and inclusive Europe. And this is established in the new priorities of the EU, be it the European Green Deal, be it Europe Fit for the Digital Age, or an economy that works for people. In the urban mobility context, these objectives mean that we have to transform our current system. EIT urban mobility is a driving force for these changes. How do we drive the change and make it sustainable? One, by placemaking, tactical urbanism, making small scale changes through experiments that allow us to create future places that we want. Changing the way we move starts with changing how streets are designed. The EIT urban mobility community wants to build a growing consensus on what the city of the future should look like, with more place for people to meet, socialize, move, more green areas. We are deploying real-life urban mobility experiments and their scaling through dissemination, knowledge sharing. One example you see here, last month, we launched a call to digitally fabricate and deploy urban elements in order to adapt temporary public spaces to meet the challenges that cities have right now in the context of COVID-19. With the increasing urbanization, making neighborhoods more locally based will be an important strategy to reduce the need for mobility. This means creating mixed-use areas where all everyday services can be reached by cycling and walking. Adoption of teleworking during the pandemic has shown us that we can shape peak hour traffic flows and reduce them substantially. 90% of UK workers who've worked from home during lockdown, according to research, now would like to continue in some form or another after the pandemic, working remotely. Further increase in e-commerce requires that we optimize logistics and deliveries through delivery hubs, cycle logistics, or silent night deliveries. During the lockdown, 28% of Europeans in urban areas use online shopping as the main channel for buying groceries. That is a 10% increase compared to pre-pandemic levels. What do we do at EIT Urban Mobility? We're working on logistics optimization for more sustainable urban deliveries, be it innovative micro depots for local deliveries that are being currently tested in Helsinki and in the Brainport area, which is in the Netherlands. Producing a roadmap to guide implementation of schemes, similar schemes in more European cities, and actually allowing these innovations to scale. One long-term consequence of COVID, an increase of the remote work that has come with it, could be that more people will move to cities' periphery. In the USA, this is already reflected in increasing housing prices in the periphery of some metro areas like New York, San Francisco. And the same could happen in Europe. To anticipate this trend, metropolitan regions need to build up public transport attractiveness for commuters. Public transport has been harshly hit by COVID. The public transport use has fallen between 70 to 90% in major cities worldwide during lockdowns. And we need strategies to reboot public transport. For this, hygiene concepts will be key in order to regain the user's trust, as well as better frequency and flexibility of services and attractive pricing. Paris, for instance, has recently introduced free public transport to its youngsters of under 18 years old. So could free public transport be a future model? EIT Urban Mobility has taken action to accelerate public transport recovery through dedicated COVID calls. We support projects focusing, for instance, on new disinfectants and special disinfection protocols for crowded public spaces, such as public transport and public transport nodes. For inner city trips, the pandemic has boosted the popularity of walking and cycling. I've already mentioned that. So year-on-year increase in active travel has been massive. 76% in Berlin, 32% in Barcelona, and almost 120% in London. To have a long-lasting impact, we need to support the deployment of the right infrastructure for active mobility. These are relatively low-cost strategies, but with very high benefits, not only for mobility, but also promoting physical and mental health. The Nordic countries in general, of course, and in particular Copenhagen, are front runners, and we have to make sure that other cities in Europe will learn fast from existing good practices. To reduce the number of cars in our cities, it is crucial that we decouple the use of a car from its ownership and increase the utilization of cars. Mobility as a service applications are an important element to achieve this. They are paving the way, more or less, for multimodal seamless journeys. They are giving people access to the right type of vehicle suited to their trip purpose, reducing costs associated with car ownership, and alleviating also parking demands in cities. EIT urban mobility activities aim to tackle main hurdles currently preventing that MaaS solutions scale up, and such hurdles as the certification of MaaS, enabling standardization, replication, governance, data and information exchange protocols that will enable a more collaborative and open source solution. In parallel to the proliferation of flexible mobility options like MaaS, cars are getting cleaner, of course. Electrification of urban mobility is shaping how people and goods will move in coming years. This is reflected in a wide range of different types of electric micromobility vehicles, cars, buses, urban delivery trucks coming to the market. The electric car market is expected to take off in Europe in the next decade from approximately 2.5% of new sales today to about 40% in 2030. To make use of the benefits of e-vehicles, we need to break the silos and build up a truly comprehensive and integrated management of the transport, the energy, and the housing system. Now, what are the key levers to help us and enable these transformations? I will highlight only 3 of them. The first one is engaging citizens from the very start when creating innovation in order to deliver a relevant and targeted solution that will have real-world impact. At EIT Urban Mobility, we engage directly with citizens via multi-stakeholder co-creation processes, public consultation on what are the challenges that we need to address, and our projects, so involving citizens in living labs and our pilots. Secondly, the policy and regulatory environments are instrumental in order to strike the right balance between providing necessary planning certainty and incentivizing innovations that can lead to more sustainable behaviors. Providing the right incentives, that is really key to behavioral change. Thirdly, data collection and sharing. That is going to fuel the urban mobility transformation. So the potential is huge for data to improve smart cities and mobility, from improved traffic monitoring to smart parking management to peer-to-peer sharing to multimodal travel. And to realize these benefits, private and public entities must work hand in hand to make the most of the urban mobility data that's available. Openness and access of data within data ecosystems, that will be a key enabler of future urban mobility solutions. Now, in the context of these transformations, EIT Urban Mobility wants to act as a driving force for change in Europe through a unique partner network across cities, industry, research, and education, across disciplinary expertise, through our thematic areas, education, innovation, business creation, and scaling through a pan-European setup on one hand, but then local impact thanks to our regional hubs, like the very one whose opening we are celebrating today. We have all levers at the tip of our hands. Let's make use of them and shape the future of urban mobility together. Thank you. Back to Henrik.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. And this was contents. And for some of you that have been around our community for a while, I think you have been longing for this. We can now really focus on contents, on urban mobility rather than just the structures around it. But you heard Maria addressing some key drivers, but are these really the ones that we need to focus on? We are working on our multi-annual strategic agenda, but the cliffhanger question really is, are we spot on with these hot spots that Maria pointed to?